Hi. If you are a parent with children in school, I am sure that, like all the rest of us, you have a lot of questions about education, and you probably want your child to do well in school. You probably want to be a help to your child. You want to make sure that your child gets the most out of his or her education. But if you're like most parents, you really don't know how to do that. And unfortunately, schools are not the best at communicating with parents and inviting parents in to participate in the learning process, the educating process of your child. There's different reasons why. Some of them aren't great, unfortunately. It's kind of what you might think are the reasons that they just don't really want to have to answer to you. So after 20 years in education, I've been a school principal. I've worked as a superintendent. I was a teacher for over 20 years, and I specialized in schools that needed turnarounds, where kids were struggling and weren't meeting proficiency, and I was always able to go in and do a good job turning schools around and helping kids learn that had never been able to master math or English or writing before, and was able to get a lot of success with a whole lot of kids. Because of that, a lot of parents ask me if I can help, and I want to, but it's time consuming. If dealing with individual parents would be very time consuming. So I thought maybe I would just try to make a video and see if I can answer some questions that a lot of parents have about educating their children. I would like to start with the question, unfortunately, a lot of parents have is, what is my child learning? I don't even know, right? So you send your kid off to school every day, all day, and they come home and you say, hey, what'd you learn today? Nothing. That's the classic answer. It's not just your child. It's all children. I didn't learn anything. You went to school all day for 8 hours and you didn't learn a single thing. No. If that is true, that's very unfortunate, but probably that's not true. So what is it that teachers are teaching your children, and who determines that? How is that determined? How do they know what to teach in second grade? How do they know what to teach in kindergarten? How do they know what to teach in 10th grade? There's a set of standards that teachers are supposed to follow. They should follow. Common Core is what we've decided in America is what we're going to use for the standards. I get a lot of people they tell me how much they hate Common Core. I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with them, but a lot of times I ask them why, and they really don't know. They have no idea. They just have heard other people say that that's bad, and so they've decided that it's bad. There may be some things in Common Core and the standards that you don't agree with it as a parent. There are things that I don't agree with as a parent. Maybe there's some ways that I don't want my children being taught that are in Common Core. But overall, it's really just a set of standards. That's all it is. It's telling the schools, it's so we know what to teach at each grade level. And basically they're written like this. The people that got together and wrote the standards for Common Core, said, okay, for a child to go into college, what do they need to know? What do they need to have to be successful in college? And they determined that, okay, if they need this, by the time they graduate, they need to know how to do these things. Okay, well, if they need to know that in 12th grade when they graduate, how do they get there? Well, what do they need to know in 11th grade in order to be successful in 12th grade? And then they'll write standards for that. And then they back that up and they say, okay, well, in order to be successful in 11th grade, what do they need to know in 10th grade? And then the standards are written for that grade, all the way back to kindergarten. So they'll go back to 6th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade, and then start at the beginning in kindergarten. What does your child need to know to be successful in kindergarten so that they can then succeed in first grade? And theoretically, and should be true, if your child masters all of the standards in kindergarten, your child should be successful and be ready to start first grade and have good success in first grade. If they master all of the standards in first grade, then they should be successful in second grade, and so on. So there's building blocks. It's like scaffolding, like if you're building a scaffold. And each one of these levels is important to the next level. Imagine if you build a scaffold and on the first level, you've only got half of the boards in place. Well, you might be able to build another level on top of that. It might work, it might last. You might even be able to build another level on top of that. But, you know, eventually some more boards are missing, some more boards are missing, and eventually the higher you go, the greater the chances are that that scaffold is going to collapse. Unfortunately, that's pretty much how it is with education. Your child could get through kindergarten and be passed on, and your child can be passed on in first grade. Unfortunately, your child can be passed on if they are not proficient at all in math or in reading. It could be that they haven't mastered a single standard, but they're still passed on to the next grade. On average, schools run, maybe a really good school might be 50 to 60%, have kids that are 50 to 60% proficient in math and reading, meaning that 50% of the kids in that school are able to read and do math at grade level. 50% of the kids are not able to do math and reading at grade level, but they're all still getting passed on. That's a big problem. So how can you as a parent help if you don't even know what the standards are? That's where it begins. As a school principal and a superintendent, I developed a system, and I did it in my school. I made sure that every student had a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet that listed every single standard. And I put it in the terms that the state uses to explain those standards, and then broke it down in layman's terms too, so that children and parents could understand what that standard meant. So there was no question if you came to our school, if your student came to our school, you would have this notebook and you'd say, well, what is my child going to be learning this year? You could open up that notebook and say, this is exactly what my child is going to be learning this year. There's no question. No, it takes the mystery out of it, right? So then when you go to a parent-teacher conference, you can take that notebook with you and say, instead of walking in and saying, because this is how normally a parent-teacher conference goes, how's my child doing? Oh, okay, great, your child's doing great. Or, your child's not doing very well. And then you say, well, what does that mean? My child is doing great. Oh, well, she's not having any problems. She's, making it. And what does that mean to you? What has my child learned really is what you want to know. But if you don't even know what your child is supposed to learn, how can you ask the teacher what your child has learned? So it's a really good tool to walk in with a spreadsheet that has all of the standards and sit down, and instead of just saying, how's my child doing? You open up the book, show them the standards, and you say, I would like to know which one of these standards my child has mastered and which one of these standards my child has not mastered. Most teachers will not be able to tell you that, but that is their job. Their job is to know those standards. They should know them backwards and forwards, inside and out, because it's their job to make sure they have your child for that 1 year, for that one grade level, and their job is to make sure that your child knows all of those standards at that grade level before they leave their class. If they're not doing that, they're setting your child up to fail in future years. I'm going to stop this video there. I haven't done videos before. This is the first time I've done this, but I know that there's quite a need, and I hope I can get it right. I feel like 10 minutes is about the right amount of time for a video. If you could leave comments and let me know if there's a better way to do it, or if there's something in particular you would like to know. I'm going to start there, and then I'll work on the next video and talk to you about the standards and what they mean. And at least, right now it's the beginning of the school year, and maybe it'll give you a good start for this year. So thank you for listening, and I hope these videos help you and your children get the most out of their education.